Hello friends, today I will be going over a matchup guide with everything involving Dash.io. I've had a lot of requests for going over all of the matchups with this deck, just because of the deck tech that I did, and I never really went over exact matchups, so that's what I'll be doing today. We'll start off with top down over here on the matchups and start clicking through here, and I'll go through the aggro matchup first. So the aggro matchup is just a straight 60. This includes Syndra, the Mirror, Aurora, and then KO and Leviah kind of as well. The Leviah definitely doesn't want to block. KO can't really block, but they do have some hands that flip in between. But they're not really trying to fatigue us very hard. So in all of these matchups, then we're going a straight 60, and we're just trying to go as hard as we possibly can on getting some boom grenades to pop off and trying to get a couple max V turns. We're remembering the three main pillars of the deck, which are be able to attack with Hanabi Blaster twice, be able to resolve a max V, and play an item off the top every single turn. If we can do those three things, then there's no beating this deck. If we're able to do two of the three things, then they need to high roll really hard to beat this deck. And if we can only do one of those or zero of them, then we're looking at a good game. But I still like our odds with being able to outrace any of the straight up aggro matchups, even if we're not able to do any of those three things. But if they're not doing any interruption to us at all, then it's pretty likely that we're going to be able to get one of those done. Um, for RTN season specifically, I'm looking to get as many aggro matchups as possible. I want to be in the race almost every single round, because if I am racing every single round, then I'm probably winning, and I'm only spending 10 to 20 minutes per match, so I get to get up, walk around, take a sip of water, maybe grab some food, and really scope out what the rest of the meta is looking like. Um, Next, we've got Assassin. I'm expecting New to be very popular in the RTN season. So the Assassin matchup, I'm playing all 72 cards just because of the amount of blocking that they're able to do, and then especially with New, the amount of banishing our cards that they're able to do. They're going to be trying to fatigue us. They are going to look at our hero and they're going to say, there's no way they can do more damage than I can block, and we are going to say, good luck, because we are coming after you. We are going to set up Teklo Pounder turns. We are going to get through some boom grenades, and we're going to be able to banish some of our items and get some heist back, and hopefully end it with a big Hyper Scrapper. The Hyper Scrapper plus, where is the card? Hyper Scrapper plus, if we go to aggro, plus Convection Amplifier combo is just amazing. At the end of the game, we'll be able to come at them for 8 to 10 dominate pretty easily, and it's just going to be really hard to overcome 8 to 10 dominate. For the convection amplifier, we're usually trying to put it onto a heist so that we can get one of our items back. If we're able to put it on a heist while we have a processor out and they don't have any armor left, then that's just a huge thing for us. And we're going to be able to get one of our items back, crank it, and still draw a card off of processor while still hitting them for at least 2 with the heist, or 1 if they have a D-react. But I mean, either way, it's looking really good for us if we're able to do that. The convection amplifier is really what what really allows Dio to send over the matchup between assassins and guardians. Just really any of the full fatigue lists that we're running into. That being said, it's very important to never banish your convection amplifier, even if it sets you back like a little bit on your turn. It's so important that you're able to play a convection amplifier in especially the guardian matchup. The assassin matchup isn't as important, but especially in the guardian matchup, you will never ever not play this card. Like it's just too important for you to be able to win the game with. With that said, we'll move on to the Guardian matchup. Another one where we're playing every single card, except this one's a little bit different. So for the Assassins, we're able to, maybe if they don't disrupt us a turn before, then we're able to get a big hand. And we'll play our whole hand. And we will focus on getting the Blaster out, getting the counters on the Blaster, and being able to maybe potentially hit a max V. We can usually do that because they're not really hitting us on our turn. Now, if you're playing against the Jarl, then we're not really ever going to be able to get 3 counters on the blaster. So we're always going to be playing the Symbiosis Shot versus the Jarl matchup because they just have too many things to tax us. Maybe they hit us with a Blizzard, which is 3 for our next thing because we have to pay the 2 for the go again and 1. But I mean, honestly, most of the time, if they Blizzard you and you have like an item in hand, then you can just say, nah, it's fine. Or item on the top, you could say, no, it's fine. And then just play the item off the top, don't crank it, and then just go to the next turn. And then hope next turn they don't have the Blizzard. I have played a game where I got Blizzarded 3 turns in a row, and I was still able to win that game versus Jarl because of the way that I was able to set up. Especially in the Guardian matchup, there are 2 games that are being played in the Guardian matchup. One in which they have armor, and one in which they don't have armor. So once you're able to take all of their armor, especially if you have some early game T-Bones, really, really do very well in this matchup. Even if their armor is battle worn, then just getting rid of those like 2 points of armor so they're not able to block a 0 to 60 with a boom grenade behind for, block 2, then we're really like, it's really looking good for us. And the early game T-Bones are just really good, just in general against pretty much everybody, just because it chips away just a little bit more. We're able to get over those breakpoints just a little bit more, and we're able to hit with those heists, just a little bit sooner. And it's just so important to be able to chip away their armor, and once their armor is gone, then that's whenever we start really playing the game. You're not looking to boost against any of the Guardians, and then like play a boom grenade off the top, crank it, and then boost. Like that's just not gonna happen versus the Guardians as long as they have armor. Now once they don't have their armor, then that's whenever the game completely changes and is in our favor. If we are at above 35 cards in deck, then that still gives us 5 to 10 or 5 to 7 hands left, depending on how often we're boosting. Then we're probably golden for being able to win. It doesn't really matter how much life they have as long as we still have a max V and just a couple boom grenades left. We're able to just go over the top on them with, 5 to 7 hands left. That's very important. Just counting deck size versus them and maintaining your deck size at the beginning of the game is very important. If they're very patient with their armor, then it's going to be a very tough matchup for you. And it's going to be very important that you use all of your Spark of Geniuses and try to get, if you can get 2 Teklo Pounders on the battlefield at the same time, then you're doing very well. If you're able to get all 3 on at the same time, and maybe one of them has 2 counters and 2 of them have 3 counters, and then for the next 2 turns, your first attack is coming at them for +6, then there's nothing that they can do. If they have to block the entire first, if they have to use their whole hand basically to block the first attack, and we play a boom grenade off the top, and they see that, and they're like, well, now, what do? I just have to let this boom grenade hit. So that's the most important thing, is being able to get 2 or 3 of these on at the same time. And then at that point, you're able to really start moving with your first one. Again, the Convection Amplifier, very important for this matchup, very important for sending over the heist. Against the Guardians, we are going to be playing the Bracers of Belief, so being able to Bracers of Belief, make this 7, and dominate is just a massive opportunity for you to get another Boom Grenade out, or maybe another Processor out if you've boosted one of those away, or maybe just a Teklo Core if you're playing against Jarl. Teklo Core is very good versus Jarl. It allows us to play our whole hand despite being frostbitten. So yeah, very important for any Guardian matchups. Then we have the Illusionists. We're going to be playing our little not hard fatigue matchup. So like we're not really going to be playing these, not playing this, and not playing this. But we are going to have a little bit more cards because they do block well. And they do have the ability to stop us in our tracks. Prism doesn't really block very well. You could probably run 60 into Prism and be fine, especially because running 60 into Prism means that you see your max Vs earlier. Another thing to know about Prism is that you can defensively buy back max Vs with a backup protocol so that you can pop any of their stuff. So if they go Herald into something else into Herald, then we can buy back this max V and pop one of their Heralds. We could also buy back the 6 attack as well, wherever the Throttle. We can buy back Throttles, we can buy back max Vs. Throttle isn't as good because they have the thing that gives -4. Even if they give this -4, it's still a 6. It's still a popper, which is so huge. So this is actually mostly used on defense. If you have the ability to use it on offense, as long as they're not hitting you with a Herald of Erudition, then I would say go for it and just attack them because they only have 32 life. Like, they really only have, 2 or 3 turns against this deck because we can really output some damage against them. Now, against Enigma, it's a little bit more challenging, especially because this is like hunted. I just went to my pre-releases this weekend. Very fun. But there are 2 new cards, Quick Dodge Reflexers and Shelter from the Storm. I'm not entirely sure how much of a meta impact these are going to have. I think that they're a little bit less than at least Shelter the Storm. I think Quick Dodge Reflexers will be very important in the meta to come. I think Shelter the Storm isn't as good as some people are saying it is, but I still think it's a very good card, and it's still going to have to be played around. I would say it's better than Fate Foreseen, not as good as Sink Below, but we'll see what happens with the meta. We'll see if it, spawns some sort of hard fatigue deck, which honestly wouldn't be that big of a deal for us. I think that our fatigue matchup is fine with the ability to set up and just go over the top on big turns. But alas, there are 2 new cards that we are going to have to play around, especially against Enigma, because of all of her ward, all of her ability to play at instant speed. But the good thing is that she will never have the ability to really protect her ward. So her Miragai probably is not going to last a while. Any of her other things are not going to last a while. The big problem that we have with that deck is probably Phantasmaclasm. I think that's probably the best card in the deck, honestly, besides a cheered up Miragai, of course. But Phantasmaclasm is honestly a close second. That card is really good, and their ability to look at our hand and make us draw a card. At least we know what card we're drawing, but I mean, it doesn't really matter. It does get us closer to an item. Maybe it bricks our hand and we get an item off the top, and then that's just really not where we're trying to be. Maybe in that scenario, you would pitch to play the item off the top and then draw another card and hope that you can see another item behind that, so that you don't have to, or see an attack behind that item and then see an item on the next turn so that you're able to still crank it and get 2 action points. Thankfully, though, none of her ward is ever really going to be able to live. I think that matchup should be fine for us. I also don't think Enigma is going to be too relevant in the meta, at least in the beginning, as long as Zen and Viserai are still around, and we'll see how much of an impact Syndra has as well. Then we have our little mid-range matchup. It is the same setup against Illusionist, but a little bit different play style. So these matchups, like any Warriors, Viserais, Zens, Riptide, for example, any of these matchups, at some point in the game, they're going to stop and look at their hand and say, wait, I can just fatigue you out. And then that's the point in which you also have to realize where they're doing that, and you have to go around what they're saying, and you have to do maybe a more setup of a turn. Or maybe you go hard one turn and then you take a turn off, and then go hard and then take a turn off. And then so you're kind of playing their game, but they're just never going to be able to output on each turn as much as you are. So maybe they say every single hand for me is going to get 12 to 15 value. Okay, that's great. But maybe for us, one of our hands has 6 value, and then the next hand has 26 value. They're not going to be able to stay with that. Like, as long as the game goes less than 6 turns, there's no way that they're ever staying with the amount of damage that we can output. The mid-range matchup is probably the most difficult to play from a pilot's perspective. I'd say it's more difficult than the full fatigue matchup, because the fatigue matchup is, we know our lines, we know what we're supposed to do, we know we're supposed to see Spark of Geniuses and Teklo Pounders as fast as possible. The mid-range matchup is much more complicated because we are going to be doing some blocking, we are going to be doing some, less than desirable hands and turn cycles, but we're just hoping that that doesn't impact our ability to just go hard on 2 or 3 turns, go extremely over the top of them. And then there's just no stopping us from there. They don't really want to be blocking. They're more trying to execute their game plan, but at some point they are going to block out with their whole hand. And once we're able to get them to block out with their whole hand, then we just start pushing the gas down. We do not stop after that. We just start going and going and going and just hope that they have to continue blocking with their whole hand. Once they get the below 10 health, if you still have 20 cards in deck, then you're totally fine. then they just need to try to fatigue you. But if they're trying to fatigue you, then if we're forcing them to fatigue you, then you're going to win that game, because there's just, if they're just blocking for 12 every turn, we're going to be coming for way more than that, especially with any kind of cool combos that we could pull off with Max V or Spark of Genius or Cerebellum Processor. It's very important in these matchups. The mid-range matchup and the aggro matchup especially are very important to get as much value out of your crown and your gear shift as much as possible. Because that's where exactly where you win the game. If you're able to get a big turn, maybe draw 2 cards with 2 processors, and then maybe you're able to get rid of an item from your arsenal because you didn't play it, you just arsenaled an item so that you could have a crank for next turn, and then you're able to get rid of that and draw a card, and then you see an item off the top, you see a processor off the top, something like that, then that's exactly where you want to be. You want to be able to use your equipment as well as possible. In this matchup and the aggro matchup, it's just so important. I mean, every single matchup, it's just so important to remember the 3 pillars. You're on a quest every single game. You want to resolve a Max V, you want to attack with Hanabi Blaster twice, and you want to play an item off the top every single turn. Now, the third one is the third one for a reason. It's a little bit harder to determine whether or not that's going to happen. That's more up to the deck happening or not. The second one is you just want to be able to boost. You don't have to boost 3 times. You just have to play through 3 boost cards. So especially in the mid-range matchup, it's totally normal to boost, and then play your 3rd card and just arsenal your last card. No go again on the 3rd one, but you do get to trigger the Hanabi Blaster and put a counter on it. It's very important that you use the Hanabi Blaster at a good time. Like I said, there's 2 games that you're playing, with and without armor. So once all their armor's gone is whenever you start really pushing with the blaster, because there's nothing they can do about it. It's just basically 2 free damage and then 5 if they want to take it. But like, I mean, it's totally fine with me. Especially against the warriors like a Dorinthia or a Kasai, the blaster isn't as good. Maybe the symbiosis shot could be better just because of their ability to block it. And we could just end with symbiosis shot every single time. It's basically the same thing because of the way that blaster works. You're getting 10 damage off of the blaster, and if you end 5 turns with a symbiosis shot, then you're also getting 10 damage off of that. And it's just a little bit more awkward to block for a Dorinthia or a Kasai just because they have so many attack reacts. But yeah. If anybody has any questions, I would love to just keep making more videos about Dash. I'm going to be coming out with some more gameplay videos and streaming throughout this week as well. Really getting ready for RTN season. I think that this deck specifically is really lined up well for at least the first couple weeks before anybody figures out what is going on with any of the control decks. I think in an aggro meta, this deck is just so good. I am excited to play it and keep you updated with how I do in the RTNs. You know, I'm just going to go in and have fun and play my best. I don't know if anything's going to happen. Our scene out here is pretty competitive. We have had multiple people top 8 at Worlds and Pro Tours. So I'm just going to go out, have fun, and see what happens. But appreciate everybody who watches this video, especially if you've watched this far. Like and subscribe, and I appreciate y'all. Have a good day.